Hello, everybody. I am Margherita Crystal Lotus, and I have my friend and mastermind buddy, Heidi Hornlein, with me. And in this seminar, we're going to talk about the authentic voice and why should we bother about it. Heidi, how did you come up with this title for this seminar today, and what is the authentic voice?
Yeah, these are two questions together. Hello, Margherita, and hello, everybody who is listening. Authentic voice. I'm in research of my own voice for, I could say, a lifelong, and that's why I also came to Italy. And so I found my authentic voice. But when we are talking about authentic voice, we normally talk about other things. And I wonder, Margherita, what would you understand when you hear authentic voice? What would you say?
So when I hear authentic voice, or I'm talking about my own authentic voice, it's that part of me that's really me that's speaking, and if I can connect with that part inside who really is my true self, then that would be the definition of authentic voice for me.
Okay, so you understand authentic voice as your authentic expression of who you are. And I think normally people understand it in this way. You know, you hear about a writer who has finally found his authentic voice, or a filmmaker, and so on. So it seems to be used for authentic expression of the personality, of the authentic person. And when you have found your authentic voice, it equals that you have found yourself in many ways, you know. And exactly that's it. But for me, it's even more. For me, our physical voice is very much connected with that. And almost nobody ever thinks about how much impact the physical voice has on our emanation and on how people perceive us. So I wonder, have you thought about that, Margherita? How your voice sounds in different situations?
Yeah, like, okay, so when I'm not feeling sure, I sort of stumbled on the words maybe, or when I'm nervous and I'm going to go speak on the stage or something like that, and I'm feeling tension and nervousness and maybe even a little bit of anxiety, yeah, for sure, it's really hard to get focused to actually say what you want to say to the audience. So I can agree on that. I felt it myself, as you know, tense in my shoulders and my stomach as butterflies and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you bring it on the words and your physical feeling. Did you notice how actually your voice comes out when you are nervous?
Usually I don't think about that because there's so much other things going on, right? But I have seen recordings of myself and thank the universal providers for the technicalities, because when you have a video and you can see it, you can hear yourself, this is amazing, because then I can see for myself. And I think that is part of what people don't want to be on the camera or taking a photograph of themselves. That's what that all is about. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I agree. And we are talking today authentic voice. Why bother? You know, and I take it over to the physical authentic voice. I am a voice coach, voice therapist. I still am, but I sing very little. I was a classical singer, an opera singer also. And for me, voice is very, very, very important. And I started up as a young person with sort of two different voices, a very high voice, and then it broke up and went into some other registers. And by training my voice, I really can have the potential now. What you hear now is part of my voice. I could expand it when I sing, you know, then it's really, I don't want to do it here because it might be too loud. Anyway, a voice for me has become a way of developing myself. You know, my voice became more congruent. It came more together. It was not high and low, disattached, but it became more round and more soft. And at the same time, I grew up. I became more mature. And when I began to train other people with a voice, it was not so much that I wanted them to be very able to sing, but I wanted them to grow up. And this is a parallel process often, not always, unfortunately. But my idea is when you develop your authentic physical voice, something changes in your being, in your, how to say, you will feel yourself in a different way, and you will present yourself in a different way. And for instance, when you go up to the stage and you have to say something and you feel, oh, I don't know, hopefully my voice comes out, and you begin to talk with a very little voice, or even you fear that the voice goes away. You know, when you are familiar with how your voice works, then you know what to do in these moments. You are not taken anymore by fear. Oh, what can I do when I lose my voice and all these things, you know? But you know what to do. And this at the same time will calm you down, because you are sort of in control of what is happening, and you are not at the mercy of your voice if it is going away or not. And at the same time, you know, you have the possibility to reach people with your voice. Think about when you hear somebody the first time on the telephone. What is your impression? It's only the voice. You cannot see the person. It's only the voice. And normally you have an idea of who the person is, what the emotional state of the person is. You know, it's different if somebody talks in this way, or somebody talks in this way, or somebody is really excited. Huh? This is really a difference. You hear it. Everybody hears it, don't you?
Well, it's really great to actually explore this, because the voice, what you're talking about, Heidi, is everything that's going on every day in your life, maybe even every hour. If we can't express ourselves, you know, when somebody says to you that you have to shut up, how does that feel? Because you can't get to express what you're feeling. So there is an extreme degree of emotional component in our voice. Heidi, can you talk about the emotional component a little bit more from your point of view?
I think the voice is the very first expression of our emotions. It is like somebody calls it a mirror of the soul. So we have a sense of what the person is like when we hear a person speak. Also sing, but it's more likely when speaking. And you know, it is quite difficult to really be aware of how your voice is, how others perceive you, because you perceive yourself in a certain way. You hear your voice in a certain way, but it's not the way others hear your voice. Normally people who hear their voice the first time in a recording, they are horrified. But this is not my voice, you know.
This is, I agree with that. I you know, like I tried to record something when I first started out, and I did a retake and another retake, and I wasn't happy. And then I blamed it on, well, I don't remember what I was supposed to say. But really, if I was be honest with myself, I had this anticipation of who's going to listen to this, and I'm not worth something, or some other emotional component about myself that I hadn't resolved yet. So what would you say about that?
I think a person who is listening very, very attentive can see if the other person is really in her authentic voice, in his authentic voice, really in his, her authentic being, or if there is something off. Because there's little clues. Scientifically, you might even find it out, but it's just the intuition. You know, for instance, if somebody tells you, without seeing my face necessarily, just only listening to my voice, oh, I'm so happy today.
Yeah, I wouldn't believe you a moment, I tell you.
Or when you laugh and say, oh, I'm so sad today. You know, it's just incongruent. And many people go around in their lives and they don't realize that their physical voice is completely incongruent to what they want to show to the public, to the people. I remember a young spiritual teacher, the name I've forgotten, and she is really a very deep person and had very profound experiences and transmitted to their people, her tribe. But when you hear her voice, you think that is a girl. And in some way, I feel a bit strange about it. You know, when you have all this embodiment of spirit, let's say, and your voice is still a girl's voice while you are an adult woman, I have the impression that there is some step missing in the maturation of the person. And there are many people around. I had a client, he is very tall, manly person, and he talked with such a high, strange voice, you know. And I said, it doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. When people see you, they have a certain impression, and then when they hear you, they say, oh, what is that? That is not what I expected the person's voice to sound like. And this impression of incongruence makes something with you. Will you trust the person who obviously is incongruent? You might not be able to name it so clearly, you know. You might not be able to know that your feeling of there's something off comes from the physical voice, because in my experience as a voice coach and voice therapist, I see that most people are really not aware of the, let's say, partiality of their own voice. They are normally using a part of their voice, or they restrict it in certain pitches, you know. Women often go very high, especially when they are in panic, then they begin to scream, you know, ah, do that, do that, do that. Oh, and this is not grounded anymore, you know. And people who are really very grounded, then you feel the calmness coming out. And this is not actually a quality of the voice itself, because the voice is a translator of what is inside of you. And this translation, the voice can do only if all the blocks are removed. Because when the voice is constricted, or physically, or by psychological false beliefs, let's say, then the voice cannot follow your deep being and your emotional moment which you want to transmit. I mean,
can you give for our viewers some signs that they can look to other than the perceived voice, because a person doesn't really know that they have this happening with their voice? What signs in themselves do you think that they should look for to see that there actually is a problem with how they're expressing themselves? How would they know?
First of all, I would say observe this with other people, because it's easier. Observe if the voice is congruent to the person. If you are annoyed by a voice of certain people, if you are getting tired when somebody is talking, or if you are wide awake if somebody is talking, it's not always about the content. It's often how the content is delivered. And the delivery is due to the voice for a large part. And in yourself, yeah, you could see how you feel in your side, in your inside, how, let me see, the incongruence, to find out the incongruence maybe is more difficult, but to find out the congruence, for instance, when you are really relaxed and happy, and then observe how your voice comes out. And normally it is in a soft way and in a lower pitch, and what you say will be slower. You won't hurry up. Just see. And then you might look at it in extreme cases like this, when you're very relaxed, or when you are very in upheaval, in hurry or in stress situations. How will be your voice? It will be, something like that, I guess.
Well, thank you, Heidi. That is great advice. So also you can hear, a person who is not authentic in themselves, I'm thinking that some other signs of that is you don't get what you want. You experience perhaps other people are not listening to you.
Absolutely.
They don't pay attention to you. You're becoming frustrated with situations that it escalates. Can you talk about that, Heidi? When somebody is feeling like frustrated or impatient and feel that other people are really not helping them, what would you suggest to them?
Let me begin in a very common example, that people, especially women, think they are not heard. They are not considered when, for instance, many men, it's a group of men and only a few women, and often the women have the impression that they are not heard. And then, to be heard, they think they must speak louder. And what they do, they speak maybe louder, but they rise with their pitch, and then they begin to be in this way, with a very hard way of talking, and they try to get the attention from people. But what they do, they push the people away, and so they won't be heard.
It's horrible, Heidi. Oh, I'm cringing. Yeah, I got
it may also be in other ways, but when you are sort of invisible in the acoustic way, when you were used to always dim down your voice, which many of us women are, not to speak up, and when they speak up, then they don't know how to do it. And they don't have developed a round voice, confidence in their voice, the confidence in their authentic voice, in their authentic being. And so they think they have to go for it, And though they begin to be, we would call it maybe masculine, they try to say things in a way which are probably perceived as not really.
I can relate to that, Heidi. It's like, I think that part of my experience with expressing myself, in order to be heard, I have to use my masculine side, and I wasn't accessing my female side, which is also equally valued. So my healing journey during the last many years here has been to actually free that part, that feminine side, so that she also can come out and be seen and be heard.
Yeah. And this is actually what we need to learn to become our authentic, as we say, authentic voice, and to go out into the world with our authentic voice, with a voice which has the strength, how do you say, the energy to be heard. And even if you talk in a low volume, but there is a possibility to be heard. If you speak with a low volume like this, nobody will hear you, you know. And if you think in this way to speak louder, then comes out something like this. And that's not. It's just not. We have to learn to have a grounded voice. You know, I can show you. Like I'm speaking now, it's quite grounded. I can feel it in my breast up to the belly, more or less. I could go even lower. When my body is more relaxed, probably you will hear a certain difference. Or I go out of my body completely, then I have this voice. And this voice is only in my head. It might, to somebody, might sound nice, but it's just a partial voice. This is not the whole voice, and it's a voice which is somehow, it's not mine anyway. And in regard to the volume, if I have a full sounding voice, I can talk also with a low volume and still people can hear me. You know, I don't have to shout with this voice. I can go a little lower and so you still will hear me. But if I talk with this voice, so there is no consistent with this voice, do you still hear me? And this is the same volume. It's just not the same thing.
That's so valuable, Heidi, that you show this, because I think many of our listeners are very interested to actually work on themselves so that they too can express themselves in their life with loved ones, in family, or even at work, or even as a speaker, or somebody who delivers teleseminars or webinars or something like that, a public person. Each one of these people can actually take benefit of what you're actually saying here. So how could they connect with you to maybe help them to work on their voice?
Oh, they can go to my websites. I have both down in the lower third. The Integral Voice website is an older one, and it's in German. There is Google Translator, so something they will understand. Or go to the powerofrelationship.com website and get into contact with me. I'm actually trying now to get my two passions together. One is this voice work as a means of developing consciousness, of developing fullness, of growing up. And the other is relationship work. And this fits really nicely together, because much what we do with the voice is the relationship with yourself. When you discover...
I agree totally with that, Heidi. And if you don't have a relationship with yourself, how could you have a relationship with another person? You know?
Oh, you know, a relationship you have always with yourself. It depends which one. So it's about
or a horrible one.
It's about to develop the relationship which you have with yourself. It's all these beliefs. For instance, let's go back to the example to go on the stage and have to talk to somebody. If you have a belief of yourself, oh, I can never do it, it's not for me, and I have to do it, but I don't know how, and you enter into fear and tremor, you know, everything is trembling, and you go on the stage, you force yourself on the stage, and then it's very likely that you fail. Your voice won't come out for all this fear. It's because you have set yourself up in a way which is not very helpful to do what you were planning to do. So it's about finding out about the limiting false beliefs. And they are for the voice in the same way as they are for the personality. Because what I want to make clear today is the voice is intimately connected with ourselves and our self-expression. The only thing is nobody ever thinks about that. Nobody ever has thought about that this connection exists. And they try to learn all sorts of communication techniques and whatever, and they never think about the sound of their voice and that they could develop it. Because I had even, for instance, as clients, really not as clients, but they didn't come, but I have proposed my services to teachers who have the voice really gone bad, you know, for all the wrong talking. And they don't think that they could do anything about it. That's just my voice. It's like it is. And if it's really bad, then I have to take cortisone. That's what happened to me. These people come once, I tell them you have to change the way in which you speak, and they prefer to take medicines, and then every half year and so on, the same phenomenon arises. At the end, they have these knots on the vocal cords, and it's worse and worse. But they are so familiar with the sound their voice is that they think that's it, and they have no idea what potential there is in the voice. And even very ill voices. I had a client, she had really the knots on her vocal cords, and she was a singer, and she almost couldn't sing anymore, only with pressing very hard. And the notes disappeared by the training, and she has developed a very nice and natural voice, and she is in career now. So very few people think that they can do something, and that's really my intention today, to say what you hear as your voice is probably not your full voice, not your full potential. And if you can unleash the full potential, you have the possibility that the voice is adapting in the right way to every situation.
Yeah, I really congratulate you, Heidi, for actually doing this kind of work. And when you mention beliefs, that's sort of a mental component, and emotions, of course, is an emotional component. But they're very, very, as you say, strongly interlinked with how the voice comes out. This is maybe something that the listeners want to take note of, because if you think that the physical voice is just the physical voice, as you say, with this teacher who didn't know that she could develop her voice, that's in her area of beliefs, right?
Absolutely.
So then you stay blocked, and your authentic self cannot come out. And so the work that both of us are doing is to actually free those blocks and beliefs, and actually practice to have an authentic voice, so that people around you can listen to you, and so that people in your life can actually hear you and respond to your request of what you want. So this we want that for you totally.
Absolutely, Margherita. It's so true. And you know, to say how we are doing it, I do it directly working on the people's voice, and I do it also via Skype or Hangouts. It would be better in person. I offer a VIP holiday in Italy 1 week, and you will have discovered your voice in 1 week, really. And this is direct working on the physical and psychological emotional component, but it's really also a training. It has to do with muscle, with the body muscles, and with awareness of what we are doing. So this can be trained for part virtually. Physically is nice. And Margherita, you are working in a different way. Would you like to tell us about how you...
I'll share some of the stuff that I'm doing too, because Heidi and we're doing sort of the similar topics, but we approach it from a different way. So my way is to actually work from a point of healing. That's the first point, not just particularly the voice, but naturally the authentic voice is coming out when you heal those things on all the layers. Starting with the traumas, starting with emotional upsets that we have and why they are, to discover the beliefs that a person have about themselves. And I do that with something called Solve It Now process, which really can fast track somebody to, that's what it is, so that they can actually start to practice the new way of being. And if people want to have testimonials on that, go to my website, thecrystallotus.com. I have several video testimonials there of people who has come to me for VIP retreats in person. I also work with VIP retreats on like a day over Skype, and that is also very helpful for people who live far away. So I'm really excited, Heidi, to have this opportunity to explore all of these topics on our Thursday seminars. And I want to thank you very much for actually doing this together with me. So with that, is there anything else you want to tell our audience?
I would only encourage everybody to listen to their own voice, to listen to the voice of other people, and get the connection of what they express with their voice, and if this is in congruence with their appearance and with the words they are saying. Just notice it. And when you are willing to work on your voice, so to actively get it in a different way, so actively express yourself really in an authentic way, then come to me.
Yes. Yeah, Heidi is a very skilled therapist, and she's done a little work with me, and I'm extremely thankful for that. And I'm sure that if you want to contact either one of us for further work, go to our website. I personally offer a free complimentary session that we evaluate what kind of work fits best for you. So you could do that if you like. And Heidi, could you repeat your website again?
Yeah, I actually do a complimentary session, discovery session, to see where we could begin to work and if it is a fit for you. The best thing is you come to our website, thepowerofrelationship.com, and there's a contact form, or you can find me on LinkedIn. There's all telephone numbers under the name Heidi Hornlein, which you see here.
Okay.
Okay, and thank you, Margherita, and thank you, everybody, to have listened to our authentic voice talk.
Yes. So next week we're going to have another topic, so stay tuned for Thursday mornings at 9 Eastern, and that is 3 o'clock.
In Europe. We have 3 o'clock in Europe when we begin.
So thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you next week for the next topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.